Okay, well this is going to be part 3 of my transfer case rebuild. This is an NP241 DHD. I'll put a link in the description of part 1 and 2. Today is a little bit bittersweet. I'm very happy to be getting this transfer case back together, but unfortunately my favorite blue shirt now has enough stains on it that it's become a shop shirt. So, you know, bit of a rough day, but anyways, time to get at her. All right, well, as you can tell, my workbench organizational skills haven't improved. There's only one thing that's less funny than my jokes, and that is the risk of getting some junk or bits of metal, anything like that, inside the transfer case when I put it back together. So job number 1 is going to be to, well, job number 1 is to get better jokes, but job number 2 is going to be to get this bench clean. Okay, well, before we get started, I just have to say, in all seriousness, this video is just for entertainment purposes only. I've never put one of these back together. I took this apart, and I've got a manual that I'm using, but I'm not a professional. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying my best, so just keep that in mind. If you're going to try one of these, I would strongly recommend getting an ATSG manual. Step number 1 is going to be to replace this seal right here. This is for the front output. Okay, well, I got this bearing driven in here, this one right here. Okay, so now I got the bearing in, I got that seal in, and now I'm just putting in the snap ring that holds this in place. Okay, now I'm going to drive this bearing down inside there. There we go. That's in there good, everything seems to be spinning fine. Alright, next up I got to start assembling the low range gear. This is the one you may remember from part 2 where I'm reusing this old bearing. Okay, well, an entire can of brake clean through this thing. Everything's spinning just lovely. I'm not seeing anything that makes me even a little bit nervous. This bearing here that I have installed in this case is not gonna work. If you guys are ever doing a 241 DHD, make sure you get a kit that actually says DHD. This bearing in here is far wider, and the problem now is that I need this bearing to fit on this shaft so that I can put a snap ring in right here, and because this one is so wide, that ain't gonna happen. So now I gotta knock this bearing out of here. I'll clean this one up as good as I can, and it feels fine, you know. Definitely not feeling any grit or anything like that, but there you go. Once again, this kit just does not have what I need. Okay, well, I got a nice bead of RTV around this. This is the front bearing retainer. That is all installed, got a new seal in there. Next up, I'm going to replace this bushing and O-ring in here. That's where that new O-ring and bushing were. So I've just gone ahead and put the range sector in the other side. So there's like a little detent ball up here, and that can kind of go like that, and then sort of parks in there. Okay, and next up I have to put in the detent spring and ball right down in there. That's what kind of makes it stick in a certain gear. Just a little reminder, as I mentioned in the first video, when you go to put it together and everything's labeled and in a bag, you can just kind of clean it up and put it back in. It's worth its weight in gold. Searching around through a box of random crap is just not an option when you're doing this kind of stuff. Okay, well, I got these new shift pads. All right, now next up, I'm going to be replacing the key and springs. This is the parts that I bought. These were the broken pieces that I found in episode 1. I've got one spring inside, which kind of holds the keys, and then a spring on the other side, which holds the keys. Drive sprocket installed on the main shaft, and next up I need to put the synchronizer stop ring on there. So I've been soaking everything or getting everything coated in ATF here. So now this one will go on there. So I've got the synchronizer hub on there. There's these little lugs here that need to fit in those slots. So as you can see, this can move in there. Okay, and now this is a complete unit. Got the snap ring in there. Everything's all lined up and good to go, so coming right along. All right, and it's now time to put the synchronizer sleeve on the synchronizer hub. This side, as you can see, is not beveled, and then this side is beveled. So the beveled side goes against the stop ring, which is that bronze gold colored piece. Okay, well, I've got the synchronizer sleeve on the synchronizer hub. Okay, and now I'm going to change these shift pads on the mode fork. I just realized this part here, this needs to be down inside here. See if you can see in there, there's those teeth kind of right around here. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be living down inside there. Anyways, I'm gonna pull the pin on this for today. You know, I'm getting a little frustrated and this all just needs to be done perfectly. So I'll come back in tomorrow. All right, well, it's a couple days later. Took the day off yesterday. I was getting a little frustrated, and when you're doing this kind of work, there just really isn't any room for that. You gotta be kind of clear-headed and go step by step. This is the range fork shift hub, and this is the piece that I hadn't installed, and now I have to pull a bunch of stuff apart. It actually is in the exploded diagram, and they did tell me to install it, but there wasn't a picture of it, and I just missed it. And that's the thing, that can happen sometimes. Okay, now one thing I'm just gonna mention, I took this transfer case apart with these pliers here. These are channel locks. This is a really common style. It can switch to inner or outer. They usually come with a bunch of attachments, and I got the thing apart with this, but it was frustrating and you kind of have to fiddle with it a bit. I went and got these ones today. This is a set of gear wrench. So as you can see, they just have like these grippy little paddle areas where they're a bit better for just sort of spreading this apart, and then you just kind of go like that. Whereas the other ones typically have a hole that these pins would live in. So if you're gonna try rebuilding one of these, do yourself a favor and get a set of these. Okay, so I've got the low range gear. Just gonna set that down. Next, I've got the shift hub. This piece here goes on there, and then there's a snap ring, but you gotta put it in through here first. So I'll drop that in. Make sure that's sitting nice. Next, you go thrust washer. And then this unit, then another thrust washer, then I believe this is called a retaining ring, and then I've got the snap ring to go in and hold it all together. Okay. Push around there, make sure it's firmly seated in the groove. Now flip this over. Now I need to put this ring on the hub. Put a little ATF on stuff so everything goes together nice. Okay, and then I've got my snap ring here. Okay, looks good. Okay, now I've got that unit dropped back in here, so I'm going to put the snap ring on there and I can kind of continue on. Okay, and now I've got some RTV on here. I've got ATF on that seal, and I'll just gently sort of get it on there. Alright, well that wasn't too bad. Now I'm back to the point where I was, whining and complaining about having to take it all apart. Alright, so this is actually going to have to come back apart again. Oh man, I'm really putting on a clinic here. Okay, so this needs to talk to this. So now this is sitting in a slot. You probably can't see it down there, but I'm pretty sure this is where it ought to be. So, all right, so that one's on there. Make sure this is properly seated. Okay, and now I can put the main shaft assembly in here. Okay, this is not quite setting into the case. I'm just going to go slow and there it goes. Okay, now next up I'm going to replace the pilot bearing. So this is what it lives on. This is the front output shaft. sure it's going in straight. Okay, now time to put in the front output shaft and the chain. Okay, well I just put some ATF on the bearing of this front output shaft here. I just removed the seal out of this pump here. Okay, seal is installed. Put a little ATF around it just to keep it happy. Okay, now I've got the mode spring, which goes on the shift rail. So that is there. Everything looks good. Okay, I've got the oil pump all ready to go. Got the screen cleaned out. The pickup tube is in there. New O-ring. Everything's lubricated, so I can set this off to the side. Okay, now I'm going to drop the magnet down inside the front case. Okay, now I'm just getting ready to put the rear case half on. There's a few things I'm going to have to be careful for. This spring is just kind of sitting here, so that has to index with a certain spot there. I need to get the front output shaft in its bearing, and then I need to get the oil pump splined properly onto this. So first things first, I'm just going to dump a little oil on this chain. Manual did say to coat all the components with ATF, so I've been trying to do that. Okay, well, I'm starting to think that the oil pump actually goes on the outside of the case. I had it on the inside to begin with, so that would make a little more sense. There is a notch right down in here that the pickup tube lives in, so now I'm going to try and lower it on this way. It just, something felt not quite right, and if it doesn't feel right, just figure out why. Okay, there we go. So now that I know how it goes together, I'm going to pull it apart, put a bead RTV on, and away we go. Okay, so now I'm going to just go ahead and put the bolts through. The only thing the manual mentioned is the ones with washers need to go in the ones that have the dowel pins. Alright, now we're really coming along. I got the case halves together, everything's tightened up. Just knocked this bearing out of this, I think it's called the rear retainer or something like that. So now I am just going to set the new one in there and then drive it home. Okay, that appears to be seated. Everything's spinning fine. Okay, now I'm going to drop this on here. I just put on the speedometer snap ring and gear. There's two snap rings and a gear. I was getting right down to it and I found this little piece of a snap ring. I've been noticing it in the parts box lately. I wasn't 100% sure where that came from, but I figured I would eventually figure it out. And I'm kind of starting to remember now. It's been a couple months, but I think when I pulled off this cover, that something dropped on the bench. Anyways, I called. We have a really good local transmission parts supply place. It's called TCS. Anyways, I called them expecting to just get a new snap ring, and they actually told me it's a common problem. And they told me about this bunch of stuff which actually replaces it. If you remember from part one, when I got in there and found these broken snap rings, which I've also replaced now, I'm pretty sure that happening and this snap ring here breaking were probably related. But basically, you've got these two rings, and this has a groove in it. So these would sit on the shaft where the original snap ring went in. That's where that groove would go. So those are going to sit like that. And then you've got this really thick ring that goes over top of that. So that'll be sitting like that. And then you've got like a conventional style of snap ring goes over. Okay, and there is the finished product installed. Snap ring is good and tight everywhere. This seems like a far beefier unit. All right, well, as you can see, I've got this extension housing on. Got the inspection cover on. It's pretty messy with RTV, but I will go ahead and pick that off. Anyways, the biggest surprise is that Typically you would expect to see this kind of boot right here. This one doesn't fit, so it's kind of hard to show, but there are two sealing surfaces. There's the one on the outside and then there's another one like that inside. Considering how accessible this one is, I'm gonna go ahead and just give it a try like this. You know, worst case scenario, if I gotta pull off these 4 bolts, if it starts leaking, and then just pop the drive shaft, I can obviously get a new one in there. So I'm not too concerned about that. You know, I'll give this one a try for now and just see how it works. Anyways, the last thing I have to do is put in the speed sensor, so I'm gonna do that now.